To introduce Chloe, who will tell us the story of how she's implementing Lean in a classical company after she spent 12 years at Toyota. So Chloe, go ahead and tell us the story.
Thank you, Florence. And thank you all to let us enjoy this great international event and allow me to share a preview of my personal experience. So let me first introduce myself. If presentation wants to switch. I can't switch. Je ne peux pas passer la slide. Okay. Just after I graduated, I was hired by Toyota in a young graduate program. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. In a young graduate program in a Toyota plant in north of France. And what is the graduate program in that plant? It consists in spending 1 year as a team member, so working on the line, and then 6 months as team leader. So we really experience what is expected from a team member on a Toyota plant for a certain period of time. In the meantime, of course, we have support and we have the chance to learn by doing all A3 for us, all the QC circle, Vishuk, and all the methods that we use, but it's really learning by doing. After these 18 months, as young graduate, we can choose to work as group leader, so in managerial way, or as specialist, so a more traditional method engineering support. Since the beginning of my career, I made the choice to work in management. And when I left the company, I was the head of the paint shop department. And that was, anyway, a brief of my story in Toyota. And I joined Eurofins 4 years ago as a production and rapidly laboratory director. After quite a short period of time, so since 4 years, I became responsible for 1, 2, then multiple labs, and now I'm in charge of all testing for construction in France. So it's a mix of 9 laboratories. I'll share in this presentation what is Lean to me and what it brings to me, because it's a question that is often asked to me: how do you apply Lean when you're out of Toyota? And I discovered, first of all, the word Lean when I left the company. I never used the word Lean, and I really was not sure I was really senior about anything about Lean before I left Toyota. And it's just after that I realized I knew a bit of things regarding Lean, and that this is what I was doing every day, not understanding that I was doing it, but that's what other people call Lean. But what I saw, I'm not mastering all of the Lean tools very well, but I really think we have a different managerial approach, and I feel daily that I'm a bit of a different manager, and this is really the experience I want to share, because telling the story makes me understand why it is different. And I believe it's different mostly because it's very impregnated of the Toyota way, which is less popular than TPS, but that is really, to me, the root of Lean. The root of Lean to me is really how to apply Toyota way in the daily work, especially as manager. Let me say a few words about Eurofins. It was created 30 years ago by Gilles Martin, who is still the founder of the company. He bought an analysis developed by his parents to a university. And since 30 years, his constant focus is to make any analysis be available on the market through the brand Eurofins. And it started from a couple people, and it's today 55,000 employees in 900 labs, 50 countries. So it's really a worldwide company today. And in this company, I work in the field of environmental testing, and more specifically construction, testing for construction. And we have the biggest capacity in France of tests, so 9 laboratories, about 400 employees, and 15 people working in R&D. And just to give you a hint, it's labs that are working 24 hours. It's things like 1,000 analyses per day for some labs. So it's figures that are really things we hear usually in the industry. And that's is the first echo I had when I was entering the company. And why is there a challenge in this company? Why was there a challenge when I joined Eurofins? We really rely on the market of asbestos, and what happened is there was a regulation change in 2012 that made mandatory many types of measurement and analysis. And at this stage, laboratories were not ready. And when we say they were not ready, it means that there was no capacity. So offer is much lower, than demand. Prices are very high, and basically we just had to choose our customer. And since 2016, this changes, and there is a quite broad offer on the market. Prices dropped by 75% since then, and we really all have to adapt everything, the way we work, the way we treat our customer also, because now we have to treat them as customer. And that's the challenge, that the turn we had to take years ago, so since 2016, and in my case, since 2017. I'll share a couple pictures. This picture is how I felt when I entered the company. So as you see, I felt blind. That's really the first thing I remember. When entering the lab, we were saying, okay, we are late, we are early, we have a good result, a bad result. Honestly, I said, I trust you, but I could not see anything. And since then, I really try to push people to make them be able to explain what is their problem. I'll give an example of salespeople, because when salespeople are doing prospection, okay, they're doing prospection. We don't really know where they are, at which stage. And when we say, okay, went it well or not? Yes, we are still discussing with the customer. It's really unclear. And my point was really to make them be more objective on where they are in their prospection, to be able to support them. And we work to see what are the steps. So we first need to know who is the right person in the company we want to work with. Who is the right person, take an appointment, have a first quotation, then have samples, then be a regular customer. That's examples. And by doing this work and putting all the customer in lines, we could really easily help salespeople, those that were stuck at the step of taking the appointment. It became very visible to see that they were stuck at that level. And we could say, okay, we can support you, because on the phone, you really can't reach the barrier, can't go above the barrier of the secretary. You need support on that. Some other were able to go up to the quotation sign, but never get a sample in the lab. And it's a different kind of support we need to show them. So really, this is not staying blind is important. And when you adapt to a norm, this is really something I try not to adapt to a more normal environment, working with only Excel files, try to make things visible. And this is really, to me, related to Kaizen in the Toyota way, because you can't make your process improve, you can't make your business improve if you don't see what is the concern. And sometimes you think you see, but you don't really see what is the concern. A second picture I'll share is reflecting that we can't really leave people behind you when we work as a team. I'll just share one thing that I did when I arrived in the first lab that was not really something people used to do, and that is, to me, very useful. I asked my boss to let me not be here for 1 month. I said, okay, I'm here today, but you forget me for a month, and you let me stay with the technicians for a month. And that changed drastically the way to function afterwards. Of course, it built trust, and I really think we need to build a proper Toyota way system. We need trust in the group, and to get the trust, that's to me the easiest way. Just spend time doing the work they do when you enter the company. And I think I really save time by doing that to begin with. But it's not easy when you leave a job where you're responsible of 400 people and then you arrive in a lab of 40 people and you just do 1 month as technician. It's not that straightforward, even when you work for 12 years in Toyota. And it's something that we should do more often to save time after and take good decisions. And that's, of course, making the link with teamwork. Because really the understanding to me of teamwork in Toyota is that every person is equally important and that we really deeply think that we really need everyone equally in the company. So these two Toyota way examples and practice gave me the first success in my first lab. And so the first lab was among the worst turnover result and became in months became the top 2 lab in terms of turnover. So these values bring results. After I moved to a more regional position, I had to support my colleagues, and that became a different kind of support in the Toyota way. So first job I wanted to do is to share with laboratory directors how they build their vision. So for some of them, it was a normal exercise. And I met some production directors who just really said, I don't have time to write that vision. I am fully operational. I know what I have to do. I don't have enough resources anyway. So what's the point of writing all the vision and things I will not be able to do? And okay, we have all the chance not to reach the target we haven't set anyway. And even if you don't do anything, putting the vision is important. So I said, okay, if you don't have time for that, okay, but let me see what people do in your lab. And so we go and see the project engineer. And she was working, really doing a good job on a maintenance part that was, we were ordering many per month, per years, and it costs €1,000. And she was developing internally the same part. So, okay, she did the job, but when I really asked her, why did you work on that? What was the problem to begin with? What did you solve? She was unable to just say, okay, she just said, I've been told to make this part internally. That was her vision of her job, while she had actually let the network save €4,000 per year. And maybe if we broaden to other branches in the company, maybe more. But her vision of what she did was just to have developed a part because that's what she had been asked to do. And I'm pretty sure that doing this exercise by the director, even if he doesn't have time to do many things, would have changed that view. And I think he changed his mind at this specific stage when he understood that you have to do it yourself to make people infuse and understand they work for a brighter target. And of course, this links to challenge, and challenge is permanent. You set goals just beyond possible, and this brings all kind of new challenging ideas of how to work in your company. I like this picture. I have lots of affection with this picture because it's one of the first person who called me for support, and until now he tells me that I help him seeing the elephant in the corridor, and that's to me a very nice compliment. So we really spend time to see things other people don't see anymore, and by supporting my labs director, it's something I really focus on keep doing when I go in their lab. I'll give one example that happened to me last week. I try to give example other than production because it really applies to anything. So I just sat for 1 hour next to the customer relation person. And they are so adaptable. I mean, they get phone calls from customers who ask different things, not easy, and they are used to adapt. And this is why they are so good. But they also adapt to all kinds of concern they should not adapt in our systems. And by spending just sitting there, I saw them struggle with customer numbers. What is the reference of the customer? There is one reference in our customer relation management system. So that reference is just numbers. And there is another reference in our internal software to follow analysis, because this one has letters and figures. And there is a third one in our quotation system. So basically, when a customer calls, depending on what he needs, there are 3 different reference numbers. And of course, we can't give the best support to the customer when already to search for the right reference number of the customer, we have to search into many different systems. And I never realized that until last week. And I've been 4 years in the company because I've never been there at that specific point when a customer calls next to the customer relation person. And just telling that you will spend 1 hour, you don't know what you'll see, but looking for elephants in the corridor is, I think, the best moment of my week when I do this kind of thing. And this, of course, refers to Genshi Genbutsu. So going to the field and look, it's difficult to understand how to do it, but I would just say that I used to see my Japanese coordinators spending hours on my line. I was group leader, and I was so upset because I was looking at them spending 2 hours looking at people of my team working. And I knew that they would come at a point, and they don't even speak French or English for some of them, and just pull at my arm and say, Chloe-san, come. And they show me. And of course, they see so many things that I hadn't seen because I didn't spend enough time looking and observing. And that's something that is quite easy in a way to do. It's, of course, you develop skills of seeing things, but it's really a source of pleasure and a source of improvements that is great. So one another, it's kind of a summary of the last 2 slides, but when I discussed with the labs director, giving them the message that really we cannot do one or the other. We can't do just being on the field or just setting the vision. And basically, when people think they do just one or the other, usually they do neither one nor the other. Because if you don't do both, you can't really do properly both. We need to spend time doing vision and spending time on the field. And the way to me to manage that is really, I put myself constraint in my agenda and I don't discuss the agenda. So I know I have to do it at that time on the week. I have to go on the field and make an observation. And at that specific dedicated moments, we'll share the vision with the different lab managers. So of course, now with many labs, organization is different, but the principle is always the same. At least to me, I really make a constraint and follow these constraints. Otherwise, you always have a reason not to have time to, especially to go on the field, to just sit and make observations. So this is I think, to me, at least, it's my understanding of the Toyota way. You see, I don't make a lecture. I just say how I feel things. And it's really the mix of challenge and Genshi Genbutsu to me. And that gave me results as lab regional manager. I'd say a couple of words about that success. We faced, all of us, a COVID situation last year. And we had another big event in Eurofins in 2019. We faced a ransomware, so a cyber attack that blocked all the system of all the labs in all the countries. And when it doesn't happen to you, I don't see if you understand how deep it can be. But for us in asbestos testing lab, we had no access to anything for 1 month. It means you just can't plug your usual computer, your software, your quotation system, your data where you have the phone number of your customer. You don't have access to anything for a month. that's a very long time, and you need to readapt. And of course, you don't know, it will last 1 month in the first, you never know how long it will last. So you don't even make real plans, and you work really day by day. And this is really on the first labs where I could say that it's not the labs with the greatest turnover that adapted very quickly. It's really the ones who had implemented systems where people trust each other, and when there is a proper way of looking at problems all together on one place, looking at the same thing. These labs really almost didn't lose anything in the months they gave the service to the customer. Their turnover barely dropped, and they were able to adapt almost anything. And the top labs, some labs with really good results, were not able to adapt because it's not the way they were working. They run really well when everything goes fine, but when something happens, building that trust and building that capacity of looking all in the same direction with adequate tool and mentality makes you being more flexible and more durable in time. So recently, I moved to a position of responsible of the business line for the country. And this is basically my new challenge I'm sharing in this slide. My new challenge, if I have one sentence to remember in the management I had in the plant, is really that the managerial guideline is to be demanding on the process and be kind with the people. And I find today that it's not that easy. It used to be really easy in a process where everyone has just drank the same feeding bottle, and people make really easily the difference between the process and the person. And it's not that straightforward in any company. So why it's a challenge to me today, I'll give an example. We make internal customer NPS, so customer satisfaction survey for internal services. And when my service receives a bad quotation, okay, I'm really happy to see that we have place for improvement, and we see, okay, why, and we question and say, okay, thank you to give us that feedback, and we really want to work on that at the end. And we have a new hint that something we were not seeing, not feeling, pops to us, and it makes us space for improvement. And that's because basically it's very clear to me the difference between the process I work on and the person we are. And when this is not clearly shared, and I face that often, when we make feedbacks, it can be very difficult for the person who receives the feedback, because the feedback is received as a personal remark, and it should not be the case. Maybe it's very local or French or linked with childhood. We want to have good quotation all the time. But I really describe this as my current challenge, to be able to do this difference and to be able to share that this is different, because to me it's really a basic thinking way. And if we can't really apply this to all of us, then we can't have place for improvement, because we will not react properly and we will not put the right questions in our hands. And this is really, to me, linking with respect. The way I understand respect in Toyota way, and the way we were challenged, is really that respect is setting ambitious targets. I didn't say that as managers or end of year appraisal are based on the Toyota way, on the 5 pillars of the Toyota way. And respect was really to say, I respect you if I give you ambitious targets. How can I respect you if I give you just easy things to do? And by saying that, it makes it very clear that we don't challenge the person herself, we challenge what she's able to do. And that's really something that is, to me, as a manager, very important to provide as a message. And I feel it's a very positive message that we give to our collaborator when we respect them this way. And all these examples were to share that Toyota way, to me, is very much linked with the people. And it's also why it's a very enriching source of working and in a way to work that is challenging us every day as managers. I'll conclude with this image, which is a summary of what is lean to me. Your brain will work with method and creativity, but it will work with what you give your brain to feed. And I think we really, as lean manager, we used to say that we should really see and not just look, that we should be able to, that we should be able to listen and not just hear. But to me, it's really about the five senses, to be able to really feel your environment by spending time with people, spending time observing and make them look in the same direction. All these things makes you really feel your environment and you feed your brain with all your senses. At the end, this is how I feel that Toyota Way gave me a different footprint than maybe some other managers. And knowing every day that we act accordingly to these principles, having a network of people who support lean activities really helps me every day to in different situations with customer or with my managers or with my colleagues, to make them have a stable basis to say, okay, I know I'm right in certain things. Some others can be discussed, but try it. It allows me space for not adapting to everything and to keep being unadapted gives space to improvement. But being unadapted has a balance. So this is what I rely on. I try to see where it relies to in Toyota Way, and then it's my everyday job that is then done that way. Thank you for listening. I'm done with the presentation.
Thank you, Chloe. It's very interesting, this experience of how you said that the Toyota Way guides you on your everyday job as a manager. It was very, very interesting for us. I have a first question for you from Mariah. She's asking, how much time do you think a director or a top manager should spend on the field, on the Gemba? Every month, sorry.
Every month, okay.
Yes.
My challenge is to be able to do 2 times per week, one focus on the field. Being on the field not necessarily means spending an entire day. It can be time slot. I offer time slot of 1 hour. It's the way I do. There are different ways of doing, but that's my ultimate goal, twice per week. And of course, once per week is a good basis to start. So that would be my answer, to keep a certain rhythm. And sometimes on Friday morning, you don't really want to do anything else, and it's a good time to spend time with people. I always felt it like that. I often do it on Friday morning. You have people being more, I don't know, open at the end of the week, and you spend a very quality time with a high level of quality at that stage.
Do they expect you? Do you tell them the day before that you will be coming, or do you just show up?
Today, I tell them because I work partially. I'm far from them, so they know when I go in their lab, and also we sometimes can do problem-solving support through Teams, or just going deeply in a problem also allows to see what happens in the field in another way. So they know when I come, and
Okay.
they are prepared, and it gives more. They are prepared and they think it's perfect, and that's where you really teach them that it's you can do things in addition of that, so it's better than the surprise.
Okay, thank you, Chloe. Christopher?
Thank you, Chloe.